Good afternoon, dear students. It will be a great pleasure for us to have I would say, my friend, Mr. Arun Joshi ji, along with us. He's, I would say, held so many administrative positions in Directorate of Higher Education, Haryana, that everybody in the universities or academia knows him very closely. We had requested sir for giving an lecture on the topic exploring the intricacies of biotic communities, understanding their composition, diversity, and dynamics, which sir will take us through the complexities which are inherent in the composition, the dynamics of these all biotic communities which are there. And most of you are studying all these things into our environmental subject in UG as well as PG also. So in this lecture, sir is going to take us through the relationships which shape the various ecosystems, about the balance of the life, how the things evolve. But before starting of the lecture, it will be a privilege for me to give a brief introduction of our today's guest speaker, Mr. Arun Joshi. Sir is Masters of Philosophy in Botany with specialization in biochemistry and molecular genetics. And I would say, sir, salute to you that in which age people hang their boots. In that age, even you are pursuing your PhD from Maharishi Dayananda University, Rohtak. In the area of research is noise pollution. Sir had been into teaching profession for more than 33 years, and many of you students won't be having the age of 33 years, and sir is having that much of experience. And that includes a majority of, I would say, time into Office of Director General Higher Education, Haryana. Sir has done MPhil from Kushetra University, Kushetra, MSc Botany, and earlier than BSc Medical from Kushetra University. Sir is having 19 years of teaching experience in various government colleges of Haryana. Sir has worked as NSS program officer also, as well as sir has worked as NCC officer in the rank of lieutenant. And I had seen many photographs of sir wearing the uniform of the NCC. That is really fabulous. I would say a lot of respect comes from the heart. Sir has headed the Government of Haryana EduSet project as nodal officer in the botany and placement cell under the project. Worked as Deputy Director Cadet Corps in the Office of Director General Higher Education. And lastly, served as the Principal Government PG College, Ambala. And now, sir has been his major achievements in member of the Undergraduate Board of Studies in Kushetra University, as well as NCC and NSS in charge from, I would say, whole Haryana. He was heading the things. Sir is having excellent communication and interpersonal skills. Whenever we used to meet Arun sir, it was a clear cut and crisp communication from his side, always leading the things from the front. That was his forte. And he had worked in most of the branches of Director General Higher Education, be it coordination part or the new education policy 2020, all establishment works of the universities, maybe it is the state university or the private university, the administration, scholarship, establishment of the government colleges and private aided colleges also. Sir had been instrumental in establishing the private universities in Haryana, starting from 2006-7 to till the end. He was serving as the main nodal officer for the private universities also, and had been very helpful, I would say. He had been a strong support always for the private universities for any kind of I would say help is required from Director General Higher Education. Sir has always been there. Sir, it took me immense pleasure to welcome you today on the board to address our LPU online student educations as well as distance education students, sir. And I hope this will be a great session for all of us. Now I'm giving the baton to you, sir. Sir, you are on the mute side, sir.
Now I audible?
Yeah, you are very much audible, sir.
Good afternoon, all of you, and thank you so much, Ajayji, for such a kind words for me. Rather, it's been a great pleasure to hear you and see you after so long.
Sir,
And I'm grateful to you and to your whole faculty of lovely professional university for giving me this chance to interact with the students and coming back to the academia. Since I've been longly associated with the uh, administrative part for around
yes,
14
sir.
years, as you have already informed to all of us that I've been associated with the Director General Higher Education Haryana. And on promotion, I went to as a principal to Government College Ambala Cantt, then where I got retired. So I'm really, it's my privilege to be amongst you all and sharing my view on a specific topic regarding the environmental sciences students. Uh, so thank you so much once again. And if with your permission, I may start with that, my
Sir,
lecture
it's
for.
not our permission. It's you. You have to start it, sir.
No, no. So kind of this. Good afternoon, all the students. I'm Arun Joshi. I've been introduced by Ajayji, and it's been nice to hear all of you. And it's been great pleasure for me to be interacting with all of you. We all know that we are studying environmental sciences. Before sharing my lecture with all of you, I just give a brief outline. We all study environmental sciences as per the verdict of Honorable Apex Court of India since 2004. And the only thing is that since then, basically every university has got a curriculum for it, and same way as your university is imparting the curriculum for you and you have joined it. So it's been there. The only thing with me is that I have gone through the contents of what you have been taught by the LPU for environmental sciences. I found that there is a thing where I can coordinate with all of you, where I can interact with you, all of you. We all are very well aware of, once we say that biologically who we are. If I say I am Arun Joshi, but that's not my biological name. My biological name is Homo sapien. I'm a human being. That's why I've been called as Homo sapien. Similarly, once we become living organisms, so living organisms, we call them as the biotic. Anything which is, whether it is a microbe, whether it is a protozoa, porifera, a plant, an animal, whatsoever we call as biotic. Anything which is not reproducing at its own, we call it as non-biotic or abiotic right now. And the combination of these is what we call as ecology. The science dealing with this. Now, whenever we've been asked, what is the population of Haryana, or what is the population of Punjab, or what is the population of India? We only count the human beings. So means the total number of total number of species of an individuality that constitute the population of that area or that localized area. Whereas if there are a large number of populations which are being there, which are coexisting with each other, that is called as the community. Once we call as community, then for example, we say that it is a forest community. In a forest community, you will find that there are a large number of plants, there will be grasslands, there may be herbs, there may be shrubs, there may be animals, and there can be a large number of things as such. So that is a community basically. This means where there is a group of various populations which are residing in a common habitat and in association with each other, that group or that adjustment of beneficial interactions is being called as the community. And that's basically, once we are not taking into consideration the abiotic factors, that's why we can call it as biotic community as well. So that is a biotic entities. Once we include the abiotic components, then it will be called as ecosystem, not a community. So this concept of biotic communities is been there. So I'll just share. So once you say that what is a community, this means a naturally occurring group of different plants or animals which are sharing a common environment. This assemblage of different kinds of populations is called as a biotic community. If we call it as only the plants, then we call it as a plant community. If they are the animals, we'll call them animal communities. This is how the community structure exists. Now, once we study what are the relationships of different organisms or group of organisms in that with a particular environment, then we call it as ecology. So this means once we are studying the community, this means the study of the relationship of various communities to its environment is termed as a community ecology, or what we call as syncology. They are in sync with each other. And such, if we call restricting ourselves to the plant communities, then we'll call it as the phytosociology. This means there is a interaction of the plants with the environment, and that's what we call as the phytosociology. Ajay ji, my screen is been visible?
Yes, sir. Screen is very much visible, sir. But
Okay.
I would request that if you can make it full screen, in
Okay.
that case, it will be easy for students to read.
Okay. Okay. Just a minute.
On the lower side, sir, where your yes,
Now it's okay?
yeah, good one.
Okay. Thank you. So once we start dealing with that, what is the community? So as far as the plant communities are concerned, in the 20th century, there were three schools which are supposed to have given this concept of communities in the plants. One school was the American schools, which was led by the Calls in 1899, the Clements, and they studied basically what are the community dynamics. This means in the latter part, we'll understand what the community dynamics, that is succession or a climatic climax is to be formed, what basically community dynamics means. Second was the Scandinavian, that is the North Europe, where Retd and the Ronkiers. And to the students, I'll say that this word, this name, Ronkier, 1934, we have to keep remember for all times to come. Because if you are studying ecology, anywhere you'll find that Ronkier. Without Ronkiers, the ecology part has been not there. And third is the South Europe part. So, which gives basically, so the Ronkiers classification, or they simply showed about the floratic aspects of the plant communities. Whereas the Southern Europe, they called the concept of the community structure. This means from all these three different schools of thoughts, what are the dynamics of a community? What are the floristic aspects of the communities? And what are the concept of a community structure? We are going to learn from this. So as far as the characters are concerned of a community, broadly, there are analytical characters and there are synthetic characters. And these characters, whether they are analytical or they are synthetic, they are again been subdivided into two different kinds of subparts, the qualitative characters as well as the quantitative characters. Wherever there is something related with the biotic part of the quality of that plant, we call them as the qualitative broadly. And secondly, if the number has been there, then we call them as the quantitative. So as far as the qualitative characters are concerned in a plant community, it will deal with 8 different forms. Depend right from the floristic composition. How a plant is formed and what is the composition of that, how that layering pattern has been established in any kind of living forms, that is called as stratification, that is layers, the physiognomist part, the phenology, the periodicity and expectation, how the plant grows, what are the different kinds of changes, when these changes will going to occur. These are all the phenology, periodicity, or the expectation. Abundance. In a given area, you'll find that a large number of same kind of plants have been appearing, or same kinds of trees have been appearing. That is the abundance. How much abundant that plant is been there. The dispersion and sociability, how the plants are been divided, and how different kinds of plants, different kinds of population in a community, they are still living with each other, with an interaction. The vitality and the vigor of the plants, and finally the life forms. What are different kinds of plants? You see that there are the herbs, the shrubs, the trees, the climbers. These all are the life forms, which we'll deal detailed. As far as the quantitative characteristics are concerned, there are again been 6. For the density of the plants, the frequency of the plants, what are the abundance, how much have been there, what type of cover they are providing, that is the again the quantitatively, in how much area that community has been existing, whether it is a grassland, it is a forest, the species diversity index, how much the diversification of different kinds of plants or the different kind of species are been existing in a given area, the dominance, which particular type of a plant. You say that it is a pine forest. Why? Because the pine trees are dominant. This is spruce forest. This is savanna grassland. We use different kinds of terms for different localities. And that's whatever the plant form has been dominating, that we call as the dominance in that case. The third category is the synthetic characters. Synthetic characters means presence or consistency. How the plants are being present in a particular area. Consistency is there or not. The fidelity, the dominance, the importance value index, the association index, and the index of similarity. These terms, this seems to be something as if a very cumbersome process, importance value index. What basically it means, or what is an association index or index of similarity. But once we start and we deal with the community and we go with these characteristic features, we'll find that these are the simplest one. What the importance, well, because in ecology, basically, in environmental sciences, you just have to go with the verbosity of that word, basically. The moment you have an understanding of that word, you'll find that scientifically it has been so designed that you will find that everything is very much pretty clear to you. For example, now the first one is the floristic composition. What is the floristic composition? I simply say the flora. That is the identification of all the plants in a given community that will constitute the floristic composition. And how it can be done? It can be done by periodic classification of plants and naming them. That's what we call as preparation of the herbariums in our studies at undergraduate level or at a postgraduate level. Once we collect the plants, we assemble them as per the classification processes and we name them. So, but even then, the naming is again the binomial nomenclature. There will be species, generic name, and species. This is how. So mostly the botanists throughout the world, they try to record the vascular plants or the dominant species earlier. But later on, once we start to have the knowledge of the basic other parts of the world, other parts of the biome, we go for an alpine or Arctic conditions. There will be cryptograms, there can be the lichens, there can be the mosses. They should also be included since it is the flora which we study under the major head botany. So while we prepare this floristic composition, we always take into consideration whatever will be the dominant ones in that community, which will be the co-dominants or the subdominants, and what will be the lower groups of plants or the epiphytes. We say that alga, fungi, we say they are lower group of plants. Then we study the bryophytes, the pteridophytes, and then the angiosperms, the trees. And if we just see the floristic composition, I'll ask the students, once you go into the to Shimla or to any hill station, we find that pines are there, the citrus deodar is in there. This means we are moving toward a hill, because since we are not in the plains, we are not going to find a pine tree. We are not going to find a citrus deodar tree. So with the altitude, latitude, we find that if such sort of a plant communities are existing, this means we can have a fair amount of idea how much or what type of vegetation has been prevailing in that area. This area will be a hilly area, it will be a desert area, it will be a semi-desert area, or what sort of a microclimates or the adverse conditions they can prevail in any given area. And similarly, once we say that this disposition has been there, then the stratification. What is the height of a plant? You find a herb, you find a shrub, then you find a tree, you find a climber, and you'll find that economically, all these different kinds, different status of the plants, they are given there. And that's how we find that stratification is been existing. They may be subterranean, below the soil surface. There may be present on the forest floor. There may be the herbaceous vegetations. There may be the shrubs. There may be trees. So different kind of stratifications are existing in any given community as far as the plant. Now, third thing is the physiognomy. What is the basic appearance of that vegetation in the community? And this, how that community vegetation is appearing, is been determined by the growth of a dominant species. In case you find that if you're going into a forest, you'll not find that there will be total grasslands. It will be tall trees. The only thing is, depending upon the latitude or the altitude, the tree canopy, that will be changed. The branching pattern may be changed. The leaf structure, shape, and size of the leaf, that will be changed. Similarly, there can be a grassland. It can be a desert. And simply, just because of a look, we'll find that this type of vegetation is in there. That is what we call as the physiognomy of an area. And another aspect is not that phenology, periodicity, and expectation. Pheno, appearance, stage, logy, science. Science dealing with the different structures, different stages, is called as phenology. In the life cycle of a plant, this art of observing the different phases of a plant, you see that we grow seed, a sapling emerges, then the leaf are emerging, then it's becoming a herb or a shrub, then there will be a different pattern of branching, there will be a different pattern of leaves which are coming out, then there will be a particular flowering period. That flowering period will be followed by whether the fruit has been there, and then finally that life cycle of the plant is going to end. This is how the different phases, different stages of life cycles in a plant is going on. This means there is a time relation between the different developmental stages in the history of plant. That is called as the phenology. Now, second thing is periodicity. Periodicity means the seasonal occurrences. When the seed germinates, if you want to germinate the seeds, the wheat or the rice, there is a specific season. If you want to grow a specific plant, there is a specific season for that seed germination. Only then the seed is going to germinate, whether it is even if it is a viable seed. Then the leaf fall. We say that in autumn, you will find that leaf fall has been there in most of the plants. The appearance of the leaves, is it a simple leaf or not? What will be the structure of the flowers? Whether zygomorphic flower is or there or something like that, that is a technical terms again. Then the fruits. What will the seed? And finally, how there is the dispersal of seeds. And all these things, whether there is the seed germination, the leaf fall, the appearance of leaves, the flower, the fruits, the seed formation, or the dispersal of the seeds, they all took place at a specific time in the year, that specific period. And that is what with the periodicity, we say that. And then the aspectity. That how that community basically in different season of year is called as the how it's been going ahead is called expectation. That is different expectation of a community related to the early spring. Early spring, how it has been that community has been looking like, how that community is going to survive in the summers, what will be the fate in the autumns or the winters, and estival period or serotinal period or hibernal respectively. There can be different kinds of these expectation. Broadly, we can say that once we broadly study the phenologicals, that is the phenological studies, they tell us about what sort of a competition within the community is going to take place in different plant, different populations of plants, and what will be the different kinds of associations among these all populations. And there, once we are having in their original habitat, we are not changing their habitat or their seasonal requirements. This is what the third one. Another characteristic feature is the abundance. This means there relative, the word has been relative. The relative distribution of a species in a community is called as abundance of that species. You find that in a specific area of India, you find that there is a large number of mango trees along with different populations. We will say that there will be abundance of the mango trees, or there will be the grapeyards, vines will be there. So occasionally this abundance, as per their relative distribution in a given community, these have been classified into 5 different categories. Rare, where you find that in a particular specific, suppose a grassland community has been there, you will not find a tree more than for miles together. You're not going to find. That is the rare one. Occasional, you'll find some small tree that how we could define it as a occasional at a specific areas. Frequently, we will find that in a grassland, suppose frequently this type of vegetation has been prevailing beside the grass. We call them a species. Then the abundant. You'll find in a particular area, this particular species of the plant, or this particular population of a tree has been occurring, or some other vegetation we call them abundant and very abundant. If that has been profusely been present in a given community, we call it as very abundant. This is how this abundance, the relative distribution, is been divided into 5: the rare, the occasional, the frequent one, the abundant one, and the very abundant one. Now, this distribution of the plants or the dispersal is always been the horizontal. How these plants have been distributed in any given specific area. Whether there is a regular, they are random, or they are contiguous, that is in benches. If we find that continuously been there, then we call them as regular. If they are being there somewhere, some other type of population has been emerging, again the same after some time, some area, you will find the same one, they will call them as a random one. And if it has been in patches, at a particular patch, you will find a specific type of a vegetation has been prevailing. In other one, you will find that some other vegetation has been there. Third, where you will find something different, we call it as in patches. So besides this dispersion, this sociability, how the plants are the social. We are not only the animals are being social, even the plants are social. Have you ever seen that some other plant or is been going, or grass is going under a jamun tree, juglans? You will not find. Because the jamun tree, the juglans, they are creating the juglanic acid. And juglanic acid will not allow any of the plant, any species of the plant to grow under a juglans tree, jamun tree. So this means, as like the animals, the plants are also they are also been social. And similarly, they have been divided into 5 different categories as per the community dynamics. The single growing plants, the plants which grow in the small groups, which grow in the small patches, in large patches, or their continuous population. That is the S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. So this means we call a plant as a social a plant will be most social if it is producing a large number of viable seeds and will reproduce vegetatively. Vegetatively means it's not going into the process of sexual reproduction, because sexual reproduction will be a complete life cycle of that plant. Whereas vegetatively, you prune a branch of a tree, or there are different methods of vegetative propagation of a plant, and a new plant has been formed. This means socially means which is more frequent. That is the sociability of a plant, and this means all those plants which are producing large number of the viable seeds and are usually reproducing vegetatively, they will be the highest one, or the greatest one. This means, in general, we say that this means the general conditions to reproduce and complete the life cycle. And similarly, the vigor, whether it's the animal or whether it's the plants, the word vigor has been there. That is the state of health. State of health of a plant, like the state of health of an animal, means what will be the rate of growth of a plant right from the seedling stage to observe? What will be the rate of formation of different parts? How the growth is being renewed? How much type of, what sort of degree of diseases they may appear? And similarly, if the diseases are been appearing in the plants, they also have the resistance. Not only the animals which have got that resistance, plants also have a resistant. The degree of flowering, all this characteristic feature they constitute under the vigor part. So basically, again in the plants there are 5 different kinds of vitality types basically. So in the last, we have whatever name we are giving, we are using the same type of term. Suppose now we are using the vitality. So for vitality type, 5 different vitality types, we start from V1, V2, V3, V4, V5. So suppose we say, now the V1 vitality means a plant where the seeds develop occasionally. And these plants, they die usually at the seedling stage. They are the most vitality is the minimum in those, the V1 plants. The V2 plants after seeds, they germinate, they propagate, they grow, but they're unable to reproduce. These are called, they have been placed in a V2 stage. V3, the plants which reproduces vegetatively only. There is no sexual reproduction in them. We call them as the V3 plants. Plants which reproduces sexually, but not very frequently. They are the V4 plants. And the plants, finally, which are well developed, reproduce very well sexually, besides the other modes of reproduction, they've been called as the V5 plants. So depending upon how a plant can reproduce and came into existence in any given community, we divided them as per Dominion 1968 classifications into V1, V2, V3, V4, V5. And then one of the important forms is life forms. Once you are looking, you are going through a field, you are going through a roadside, you are going into a forest, you'll find that what is the basic appearance of a plant? What is the size? What is the shape of that plant? What is the branching pattern? What is the lifespan? What is the position of the buds? What is the position? So these, whether it is a epiphyte, is climbing on some other plant or something like that. So these are all life forms, and in the very initial stage, I had given you that please don't forgive this wrong here once you are dealing with ecology. So higher plants, I'm not talking about the alga or the fungi or the microbial plants basically. As per the higher plants, the Ronkia classified into 5 different forms. depending upon what is the position and degree of protection of that bud during the adverse conditions, so that the plant grows properly. That's been called as the Ronchius classification of the life forms of the plants. The first one are the phanerophytes. When the buds from which the plants is going to emerge are present on the shoots or the twigs, which are having a height of more than 25 centimeters from the ground level. And these buds, they may be covered by means of the scales or may not be covered by the means of scales. These are called as the phanerophytes. And phanerophytes means basically, when we say the bud is more than 25 centimeters from the ground level, these will constitute of the trees. And these are mostly in the tropical areas of the world, having the moist and the warm climates. And we find the broad leaves as well. And they are further depending upon the position and the height of that perennating buds. The megaphanerophytes, the trees which are having a height of more than 30 meters. The mesophanerophytes, a tree which are having a height of more than 8, but less than 30 meters. The microphanerophytes, a tree with a height of around 2 to 8 meters. And then the nanophanerophytes means where the tree is more around 2 meters of height and from 25 centimeters. The range is from 25 centimeters to 2 meters. That is called the nano. Mega means the biggest one, meso means the middle one, micro means the small one, nano means the smallest. This is how we define the scientific terms. The smallest is the nano, micro means small, meso means in between, and mega means the bigger one. That's why I told you earlier that the name itself will inform you what sort of things you are going to learn. Now, the third part is now these or the second part. Now these are more than 30 centimeters in height, mostly in the you find it in cold areas, and this bud will be just near the soil, above the soil, and the dead shoots will cover this during the unfavorable season, and then they will grow. Next category is the hemicryptophytes. Hemi means small, in between. These means basically the aerial shoots will emerge at the onset of the winters. The penetrative buds will be at the ground level, and they are often been protected by winter either by litter or snow. Crypto is snow. Cryptophytes, where the storage parts are under the storage parts. This means the buds, these will be found below the ground, inside the water. And these cryptophytes basically again are two different types, where one was underground resting organs, which they are subterranean below the soil surface. The rhizome, we call them the corm, the bulb, or the tuber. For example, the ginger has been there, the potato has been there, the onion has been there. So these are where the resting organs are like this. The halophytes, plants which are growing in the marshy places. So they will be having a leafy aerial shoots, but the penetrating organs will be embedded in the mud below the level of water. They are called as halophytes. Phyta means phyton. Phyton is plant. Hydro means water. They are the submerged or the floating aquatic plants, where the parenting buds occur inside the water or at the bottom. That's why we call it the hydrophytes. The therophytes, again, these are the seasonal plants. But these seasonal plants, they perennate during the unfavorable period to form the seeds. So usually these therophytes will find in the very cold, arid regions of the world. That's why we call it therophytes. Now, as for the qualitative, the first one is the density. You find that we say that this is a dense forest, dense mangrove forest. So what is the density? The total number of individuals, the total number of population of a particular species per unit area is called as the density, generalizedly. But in case we want to have the density of a grassland, then it will be on per square meter basis. And in case of forest, it will be on per hectare basis. This means the relative importance of each species in a community. And if the species has been there in a particular community, this means there will be a degree of competition as well with the different other populations in that community. That's what we call as the density. The number of individuals per unit area has been called as the density. In case of a grassland, it will be on per square meter basis. In forest, we call it as the on per hectare basis, depending upon the composition of the what sort of community has been there. And relating to it, the density, there is a relative density. This means when we say per unit area, means that per unit area per square meter, that is the sampling area. Or one for a forest, 1 hectare is the sampling area, another hectare will be second sampling area, third hectare will be the third sampling area, and so on. So related with the total number of individual of a given species, that is the population in all the sampling units. Suppose we have taken 4 different or 5 different sampling units. The total number of population of those specific species in all these 5 units, and the total number of individuals of all the species in those all sampling units, that will give us the definition of relative density. Means, in simpler words, a population of a specific species in all the sampling units divided by the total number of plants, species, total number of individual of all the species in all those sampling units will give us the relative density. That this much relatively, this much plant has been present. Similarly, the frequency has been there. How much plant dispersion of species in area is expressed? This is the degree of dispersion is called as the frequency. The number of sampling unit in which that species is existing divided by the total number of sampling units studied multiplied by 100, that gives us this. And on the basis of the percent number of plants of population which is going to exist, the Ronquier is given 5 classes of plants, frequencies. 0 to 10, 20% A, 21 to 40 B, 41 to 60% C, 61 to 80% is D, and the 81 to 100 is E. This is how the plant frequency has been given by Ronquiers. And depending upon this classification, the total number of frequency classes, they again been in a frequency diagram, we'll find that Ronquier, so that there will be this A is greater than B, B is greater than C. That may be equal to, greater than, or less than D and E. This is how the frequency of the species has been there. So the normal diagrams which are prepared by Ronquiers, they show that there will be a species of plants which will be having a very poor frequency. And there will be a species which will be having a very higher species. And another term is the abundance. Existence of the particular individual of a species per sampling unit of an occurrence, that is called as abundance. And there are 5 classes of abundance: rare, occasional, there may be the frequent, abundant, and very abundant, depending upon the size, per meter square size. They have been classified the abundance of the different plants. So similarly, this is how the percent area covered or occupied with plants on a species. This is how what we deal with it. When we broadly say that canopy or the crown cover, what is the land area under the cover of the tree or that plant is called as the canopy or the crown of that plant species. Whether it is a basal cover by the stem of a plant, and the basal area of a tree is again been 1.5 meters above the ground level. So this is how basically we say the canopy and how the existence been there. Another is the species diversity, which I had told you that these are the specific sort of definitions for calculating this. The diversity of this different kind of plant species in a community has been called as a species diversity. For example, Odom has been an economist. He said that the species diversity has been S divided by 1,000. The D is S is the number of species present in per 1,000 individuals. So there may be different methods, but once we are studying the community ecology, these community concepts are very much been known to us. You have studied abundance. Now it is dominance. Now, which plant is been dominant in a given community? How much cover has been taking place for that community? What will be the biomass? What will be the productivity? These all are showing the dominance. That is the total basal area or the crown. That one tree which is having a highest, very big canopy, and the total area sample, this is what we call the dominance. And similarly, this means in a given community, this X plant will be dominant. Means it will be having the most of its cover. It will be having maxima of the biomass and the productivity. That's what we call is the dominance. And similarly, it will be the relative dominance. Another is the synthetic characters, the last ones. The presence. Now, the total number of occurrence of a species in total number of the stands is called as the presence or the constancy. This means if we are taking a sampling of the plants in a plot or an area with equal size, we use the term constancy is being used. And if the sampling plots are unequal, the term presence is being used. So now you understand, if the size of that area, sample area, are unequal, we use the term presence. That's why we call it is under synthetic characters. And if that is specific areas, size has been there, then we call as constancy. So these are different class of constancy: the rare, the seldom present, the often present, the mostly present, the constantly present. So this is different, simply depends upon the degree present in a unit area. And now finally, the fidelity in the community system. The degree to which a specific species of a plant is been restricted in distribution in a specific community, we call it as a fidelity. It's been divided into 5 different classes: accidental, companion, preferential, selective, exclusive species. Because of a storm, some sort of a cross pollination of the seed has been dispersed into different kinds of a community. Then we call it as accidental species. They are strangers to the, we are not going to find those plants in that specific community, but accidentally we are finding a few of them, we call them accidental. Companion. A specific plant community, species has been present beside the other one, but usually we are not finding it. This is called as a companion. Yes, for the sake they have been existing there, but usually not. That's why we also call them and name them as indifferent species as well. Preferential. The specific community population of a plant which grow profusely in a specific community, but the other species of the plants, they are also been existing in the same community. They are called as the preferential. Selective. One community where a specific one community is existing, especially in one. And you will find that they are not going to exist in other communities. We call them selective. And then the exclusive. That means species which will be only restricted in a specific community, particular community. You'll find that we call them as the exclusive community. So basically the dominance means basically and this is an analytical character. Depending upon what we have learned so far, the density, the cover, the frequency, the height, the life forms, the vitality. So any of that plant species of the population which stands predominantly or in a specific community, we call as a dominance. This means all the other species which are existing in that specific community of the plants, they are the subordinates ones, or the what is suppressed one, or the reduced ones in number as well as the vitality. This means the dominant species which is growing in a community, which will determine all the conditions under which the other species of the plants can grow. If it is, we say that it is a sal forest. This means the sal tree will be dominant. That is the Shoria robusta. Similarly, if we say there is a grassland, so it will be dominated by grasses. You will not find the shrubs or the trees basically in that case. So this is how we use the term dominant, means basically which will determine what sort of species of a plant will be growing in that community. These dominant species will determine the conditions for the other species. So as far as if we have to study the communities, there are three categories: the floristic methods, the physiognomic methods, and the phytosociological methods. The floristic, we say. Now, as far as the floristic methods, these are the obsolete methods. Because under these floristic methods, the flora which we used to study, they were simply depending upon what type of a genre and a species is present in the community. This means a particular plant has been, genre or a species has been existing in a community. So this means what will be the structure of its plant? What will be the composition of that plant? What will be the growth forms in that community? They are nothing to do with this. That's why we call that the floristic method of studying the communities, plant communities. They have been obsolete methods. Second one is the physiognomic methods. Once scientifically we start studying the plants in the terms of their forms, their general stature, the spread, they are called as the physiognomic methods. Now, Ronquier life form method becomes the most popular one, which consists of two parts: the record of different life forms and the biological, that is the phytoclimatic spectrum. Third are the phytosociological method, where in both of these, in the first one, there was the obsolete one because there was no details. Second one, there were certain details. Now, the third method, which is the most important one, the phytosociological method. In this method of study of a community, we have a detailed information regarding the composition, the structure, the species diversity, growth, etc. of the plants in that community. And depending upon what will be the size of the community, what will be the size of the sampling unit, usually these methods consist of three: the quadrate method, where there is a specific area; then the transit method, then when we say a line to line; and the point method, where we take a point. We take suppose we take a quadrate is in a rectangular shape, in a squarish shape, and we throw it on different parts of the area, and we collect the total number of plants, different categories of plants, which are the species have been there. We call it as a quadrate method. And finally, through that curve, we find that the frequency or the abundance can be calculated. We take a thread, and the 2 points are joined together. This is called under that area, under that thread, that in that specific area, the total number of different kinds of species, they have been calculated, and we say that this is the transit method, or what we call as the line method. Third is the point method. We take a specific area, we say a circle of 1 centimeter cube, and we take out the plants, different species are there, we call this point method. So this is basically scientifically to study what sort of composition, what sort of plants have been existing in a plant community. These three, usually we take the help of the coordinate methods for this composition. And now, finally, the name of the lecture you have studied, that is the dynamics, community dynamics. Community dynamics means basically how a specific community has emerged on a barren area. This is what we call as the plant succession. So the plant succession can be studied under 4 different heads. The types of plant successions, the characteristics of plant successions, what are the causes of plant succession, and finally the process. Now the plant succession basically, this means the natural development of plant communities at a specific site through a sequence of different plants over a period of time is called as plant succession. Means where there is no life, there is no plants, and finally there will be a forest or a grassland, so that finally the final community which will be existing, that is called as the climax community or the most stabilized community. That is where which will be in perfect harmony with this environment. That is called as basically the succession. And this term succession was coined by Holt in 1885. And the detailed principles of plant succession were studied by Clements. So as far as the plant successions are concerned, there can be different: autogenic, allogenic, induced succession, deflected succession. Broadly, we study 3: primary succession, secondary succession, autotrophic succession, and the heterotrophic succession. Then progressive and retrogressive. So basically, the only thing is basically we study succession into 3 major categories: the primary succession, the secondary succession, or the autotrophic and the heterotrophic succession. And autogenic, allogenic, induced, deflected, progressive, retrogressive, they are a kind of subparts of this. Autogenic. Once a new type of climate is going to emerge, because of the changes brought by the plants themselves, this is called as autogenic. Auto itself, genic means that particular genre. Means a plant feels, a community of plant, a population feels that in community, that the habitat is becoming unsuitable. So they will start paving their way for emergence of a new plant community. That is called as the autogenic. You'll find that there is a small leaved needle-shaped trees, but they find themselves, because of change in the habitat, because of change in the atmospheric conditions, they are unable to survive. So with their debris, basically some other, and this succession is not a small process. It takes thousands of years for forming of a climax community. This is autogenic. Allogenic. If the succession, if the emergence of the plants is because of some outside factors, there is a drastic change in climate after a catastrophe. It can be because of the change in the salt contents, leaching. That is called as the allogenic. Different sets of plants. If the different kind of a community has been coming because of the influence of outside factors, that is called as the allogenic. Induced, the succession which is controlled by man, human beings, because we take most of the organic food from the plants, agriculture. Continuously you are doing the same sort of a agriculture pattern. You'll find that after some time, that land is not suitable for that specific plant type. And we have to take certain protective measures. That is called how we call it as induced succession in that area. Deflected succession, which does not follow any sort of a normal course, either by addresses or by replaces of certain steps. Some new type of plant community is emerging. It's called as a deflected succession. Then the primary, secondary, and I said that. Any plant community on this earth, on this planet, whichsoever which we are seeing, right, whether it is a forest one or it is a grassland community, any sort of a community, when it starts from a barren area where there was no life form, it was biologically sterile, this is called as the primary succession. Thousands of years ago, that area was a barren area. We call it as the primary succession. And this is a very slow process, and you'll find that it takes thousands of years for developing of a climax community. There is second, it's called a secondary succession. It occurs on a fertile area, but that has become a barren area because of destruction. If you'll see that forest fire is there, all of that tree belt forest has been gone. Again, on that area, since the soil was fertile, another type of plant community starts emerging, and in years to come, it will take years, centuries, but it will be more rapid than the primary succession because the land was fertile. There was vegetation earlier, whereas in the primary succession, there was a barren area and nothing was there. Then the autotropic, auto means itself, tropha energy, where any soil, any area of on this earth, which is rich in organic matter and the inorganic substances, and where the dominant plants start emerging, so there will be increase in the net flow of energy in that community, and that's how is called as the autotropic succession. The heterotropic, where only suppose the water area has been there, where the organic matter has been higher, sewage has been, the litter has been there, the microbes, the fungi or detritivores are dominant. So progressively, some sort of grassland, herb, shrub, this type of stage has been there, and finally we say that it is called as the heterotropic, and then there too the progressive and the retrogressive. When the progression is in a normal phase, these pioneers of vegetation in a barren area, what has basically been emerged is called as the progressive one. So this is what we call as the progressive ecosystem, basically, the succession and then retrogressive. There is a area existing right now. We say that the community, the forest community has been there, and we find that because of overgrazing, because of the invasion of the weeds, so the felling of the trees, the excessive population of the herbivores, the peat or the sphagnum moss has been there, and this finally the that has led to retrogressive. They are coming back from the grassland to a pioneer stage of vegetation that is called retrogressive. And finally, we'll call it a disclimax community will be there. So usually the succession takes place in a there is a way. It is very orderly and a directional sequence of changes. It's not that in one day you'll find that a tree has been formed or a climax or a stable community will exist. Because that climax community, which we are now seeing in a given area, is being controlled by not a large number of things, especially the climate, is not the habitat. We say that X type of plants have been there, the X type of forest has been there. But that forest is in a given we call it a tropical green forest, a tropical evergreen forest. Means in tropics, it will be in the tropics. It will remain evergreen all the time, throughout the year. This means the climate, those communities are being divided, had adopted this, and that's why I call it this. So basically, the succession is because of the initial causes, the cases, and the climatic causes. These are three basic reasons. If it's a barren area, the nudation, it was a nude area, is called as the initial causes. There is an interaction between the vegetation and the habitat, and because of certain leakage of the certain specific type of chemicals, this is called cases. And because of the change in the climate, a community which are existing, that fades away. We call it the climatic causes. So the first step is the nudation, means the area is barren. Certain is the migration, उस bare, and that basic migrate area, which may be because of tectonic agent, the biotic agent, climatic agents, there will start the migration of certain of the living plants, and usually we say lichens. Lichens are called as the pioneers of succession. Lichens are symbionts, alga and fungi. So once they starts moving, then there will be lichens. So this means this second phase is called as succession, migration. Third is the reaction. Once a new plant emerges at a given area, it will secrete certain chemicals. The roots will start penetrating. They will start interacting with the roots, with the soil, with the rocky parts. Then there will be reaction by the rock as well as by the plants. What sort of microorganism will be there? The humus will be produced or not? What will be the type of water reservoir? That is called the reaction. Nudation, migration, then there will be the reaction, and finally stabilization. Once this, after long and continuous competition between the different categories of plants, the survival of the fittest, there will be the formation finally of a stable community, which will be in complete harmony with that climate of that given area. And that will finally become a dominant, and we call it there will be climax vegetation, all of which is self-perpetuating. And that's why finally there will be three different types of the successions. Hydrosphere, the existence of a climate community in a through a water body. Hydro means water, sphere means plus a succession. Second is the lithosphere, rocks, land basically. We call it the lithosphere. And third is the heterotrophic, where there is the interaction of the microbial organisms, how and because of their processes, finally this type of succession is going to occur. So this is how basically the community dynamics, it appears. And with these words, basically, I'll put a stop on my lecture about the community dynamics, which has started what is a community has been there, and finally a climax community or a stabilized community emerges on a given area, what we call as the final fag end of the existence of a climax community, what we call as a grassland or a forest, whatever name has been there. This is how the community dynamics emerge in any of the ecological systems, whether they are the plants ecosystems or the animal ecosystem. Basically, since we are dealing with the community, we are only restricting ourselves to the biotic factors and not to the abiotic ones. With these words, thank you. In case of any question, you are, please. Mr. Rohit and
Thank you, sir. Students, if you have any question, you may ask in the chat box.
they are much aware about the attendance link in the chat box.
So, any questions, students? If you want to ask any question, you may ask sir in the chat box, or either you can raise your hands.
I think Asim ji,
Yes, sir.
whatever I had an experience for around 34 years in different colleges and the teaching, once we start asking the rarest of the rare opportunity, that you will find that student is going to ask you something. Usually, everybody is saying, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. So, okay, sir. So, we can just start with the closing of the wonderful lecture.
You
So,
can share my email ID with them in case they are having any question. I'll send them the reply.
sure, sir. Sure.
Not an issue for that.
Okay. So, my esteemed guests and participants, good evening. On behalf of Lovely Professional University, I stand before you with the heartfelt of gratitude and appreciation as we bring the curtains down on this enlightening guest lecture. Uh, Today, it has been a day of immense learning, insightful discussions, and a wonderful exchange of ideas. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Arun Joshi, gracing us with their profound knowledge, expertise, and time. Sir, your insights have truly been enlightening and have left an indelible mark on all of us. We extend our appreciation to our seniors, Ms. Gini Rijwan, Senior Director, Mr. Manish Kumar, Director, Center of Distance and Online Education, whose unwavering support has made this masterclass possible. Your commitment to education and knowledge sharing is truly commendable, and we are grateful for your continuous support and guidance. A special note of thanks goes to our organizing team, Mr. Asim Khanna, Ms. Parminder Kaur, Mr. Rohit, whose meticulous planning and hard work has ensured the smooth execution of this masterclass. Your dedication behind the scenes has not gone unnoticed, and today's success is testament to your efforts. Last but not the least, to all our attendees, both present here and virtually, thanks for thanks you for being a part of this journey, for dedicated your valuable time to be a part of this masterclass. Your enthusiasm, engagement, and thoughtful questions have added a dynamic dimension to today's session. It is your active participation that has made the event truly exceptional. We hope that the insights gained today will have a lasting impact on your personal and professional life. As we conclude this masterclass, let us carry forward the lesson of learning the ideas exchange into our daily lives. Let's continue to strive the excellence, embrace continuous learning, and contribute to the betterment of our respective fields and society at last. Thank you once again, everyone who have contributed to the success of this masterclass. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And to all the LPU faculty and all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.